lose summer, lose spring, lose fall, but we got them all the time in the right way because things are going as they should. Now, if the physical universe is that organized, if the physical universe is that correct, isn't it also possible that the metaphysical universe is working on time too? Could it possibly be that this dead man called Lazarus, who was put down in the grave, who was buried in a deep, deep grave, and who was pronounced dead upon arrival, and why people mourned and cried and said, Lazarus is dead. Master, if you had only come a little earlier, Lazarus would still be alive. And they said that Lazarus, the so-called image of Jesus, who's the resurrection principle, which is the Horus principle, which is the Osirian principle there again, if in fact that same principle is working now, why shouldn't he be able to walk over to the grave and say, Lazarus, come forth? And Lazarus came forth with a napkin still on his face and say, I'm back. Check it out, and you can't touch this. So if the Osirian principle of resurrection is still there, if Isis is still there, why shouldn't the spirit of nurturance, care, love, and compassion, why shouldn't the principle of sensitivity, patience, commitment, why shouldn't that principle that Isis demonstrated, the principle to stick with it? She explored the whole earth, they tell us, looking for peace after peace after peace, and carefully led by Thoth. Thoth, the principle of thought, ration, and treason. So she wasn't just an irrational, emotional person. She was there operating with the principle of Thoth within herself, which represented the rational principle, and with reason, knowledge, understanding, compassion, caring, nurturance, love, commitment, and the commitment to life itself was able to put Osiris back together and bring him up from the grave. Now, if that happened, why shouldn't it be possible that in 1991, Ivan Van Sertima begins to tell us some stories we didn't hear anymore and says, Lazarus, get up. Why shouldn't Dr. Maulana Karenga be able to look through the ancient script of African people and begin to put together the principles that are found in the book of Coming Forth by Day and the sacred texts of African people and say, this is about you, Lazarus, get up. Why shouldn't Bishop Stallings be able to stand up against the most powerful religious organization on the planet today, wealthier and more powerful than any other, and say to him, you may be bad, but you ain't as bad as my God. Lazarus, come forth. Why shouldn't our historians begin to put the map together and make National Geographic go back and get their lies straight and take the little planet, the little continent of Africa and make it the big continent that it's supposed to be? Why shouldn't we be able to begin to rewrite the Egyptological records and begin to show that what they were calling Cleopatra and Yul Brynner and Charleston Heston and all them other white boys was in fact black, blue-eyed, black-eyed, dickhead, you. Why shouldn't we be able to bring documentation to show that it's us? Why shouldn't Asa Hilliard be challenging the public school systems around this country and say, you will either put Africa in the center of the line for African people or you won't have no school. Lazarus, get up. Why shouldn't we begin to challenge the concepts and ideas about what we should be doing artistically? Why shouldn't Spike Lee try to write another story from our point of view? If they can write garbage, why can't he? And why can't he use his garbage in a constructive way if he chooses to do so? But why can't he tell our story from our perspective and begin to use the field as a political tool to begin to change the consciousness of African people? And Lazarus, get up. Why shouldn't we be able to understand that if we begin to know ourselves, if we know the laws of God and follow those laws as ethical principles of life that have to do with the transformation, the transmutation of the rough, crude manner of human life and make it be manifested in a higher transcendent level of being? Why shouldn't we begin to understand that we can begin to service ourselves, work for ourselves, build ourselves, commit ourselves to ourselves, use our energy, our brain as a business person, an accountant, a mathematician, a teacher, a lawyer, a doctor, use that brain power to begin to change our world and change ourselves, put our pen pennies together, put our brains together, build institutions such as the African American Institute in California, such as the Institute, do what Malefi Asante is doing, putting out a book almost every month, got a PhD program in their system about us, redefines their system and put our system in their system and do it anyway. Lazarus, get on up. Why shouldn't we be able to understand that the same dead death that we find in Jesus, who was put into the tomb on Friday after crucifixion? How do we know that that was not a story about 100 million African people who were brought from the west coast of Africa to the east coast of America and paved the way with their bones? How do we know that was not the story of African women being raped, murdered, slaughtered, African men being mutilated, dismembered, castrated, killed for 300 years? How do we know that that was not the picture of one who was pierced in the hands so he couldn't do nothing for himself, had thorns on his brain so he couldn't think for himself, was pierced in his feet so he couldn't even walk for himself? Then they came with a sword and put it in our hearts so we couldn't even feel for ourselves. How do we know that we are not Jesus? And how do we know this is not Sunday, the third day? Lazarus, get on up. Praise be to the Lord. Once you understand the spiritual unity, the spiritual power, the spiritual message, then you can start restoring your peoplehood. Yes, men, we need you to be men, but we need women to be women too.
Look at it.
We can only be a team if we are both trying to get human together. We have got to both. It ain't my job by myself, sister. You got to come get human too. Don't send me out to get human by myself. Come on, baby. Let's go get human together. Sisters can't do it by themselves. Caring for the children, caring for us, caring for the culture, cultivating the best of us. And we go out there and do our thing while they stay home doing it, trying to bring it back. No, we've got to all get human together. How do we do it? We've got to study. 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 The new word is the thing that will begin to transform the spirit into flesh. The word was made flesh and dwelt among us. The word is the intellect. It is the communicative capability of reason that emerges out of the pool of metaphysical energy called spirituality. Nomo, the calling forth of the word, making the word concretize. By study, by understanding, by ideas, by knowledge, by reason, by the building up of stones of understanding, we can begin to transform this thing. Then we've got to work. I don't mean 8 to 5. I mean 8 to 8. I mean the way we worked for the devil. I mean them other people. The way we worked for all those 400 years, the way we've worked, and we got to work for ourselves. African Americans will work like the devil for everybody but themselves.
That's right.
Won't show up to our job on time. Got a responsibility, won't be there on time. But if boss over at GE and P&G, boss at P&G said, look, boy, you be here at 9. They there at 8:55. Car parked, coffee cup on the table, ready to go. Boss, I'm here. All they can do it efficiently and correctly for boss. But you say, let's get together and get a study group going, and let's begin to do some fundraising things, and let's get our young people, and let's begin to meet them on Saturday afternoons and form groups like Ramses. That's a small number of young African-American men in Cincinnati. There are tens of thousands of them. Where are the rest of you Cincinnati brothers? Why aren't you on time? Well, you are on the devil's job, doing what he wants you to do, but we don't work for ourselves. We've got to understand the importance of work for us. Hard work. Get up early in the morning. Stay up late at night. Sweat, ride, miss meals. Do what's necessary as long as this work is going on. It takes sacrifice. It takes commitment. It takes a willingness to hang in there no matter what. We need rituals. We need rituals.
We do.
Dr. Karinga is such a genius in our midst. I'm telling you, history is going to show this brother to be something special. Something special. Long before anyone had gotten to the level of conceptualizing the meaning and the need for ritual, He says we need a non-hero holiday. And he called it Kwanzaa. And started off with a little clan of us people and a few others sort of sitting over there doing it by themselves. This year, they tell us that upwards of almost 1 million or so people, 15 million people,